Hello and welcome to another episode of Upgrade Your Education Business, a podcast that helps tutors like you build a business that works for you, not the other way around. I'm Sumantha McMahon, and today we are getting real about something that almost every tutor, small business owner, education business has experienced at some point, and that is the frustrating cycle of feast and famine. You know the one. 1 month, your diary is fully booked, jam-packed. The next, a few students leave, inquiries slow down, and suddenly it's a little too quiet for comfort. Holidays then approach, and you realise you don't have any work coming up for a while. You know what I mean. And as I record this, we're approaching summer, so it's a really good time to talk about it. So, this episode is for you if you crave more stability, if you want to stay fully booked or at least comfortably booked without having to market constantly or work around the clock. Now, the good news is it's completely possible. It's not about luck or working 12-hour days or however long. It's actually about being intentional. And today I'm going to walk through exactly how to do this. Welcome to the Upgrade Your Education Business podcast. I'm your host, Samantha, and I'm so pleased you're here. As an education business owner myself and a former teacher, I understand the nuances that only apply to us. So in this podcast, I share fluff-free, tailored and actionable ideas that you can mould to suit your needs. If you'd like to take this conversation further, please do reach out. I would love to meet you. And finally, it would mean the world to me if you could leave a review. That way, you'll be helping me help more people. Thank you for tuning in. Enjoy. Okay, let's start with something that many people skip over, and that is considering what that term fully booked actually means to you. Because it's not always about squeezing in the maximum number of hours possible. For some people, fully booked might mean 15 hours a week. Some people, it may mean 30. Some may want evenings to work. Some may want daytime. So before you actually chase more students or more clients, pause and ask yourself, how many hours do I actually want to teach or work or deliver what I offer? What kind of schedule supports the lifestyle that you want? And what do you want to make space for, whether they're projects or just for life in general? When you know what you're aiming for, you can actually build systems around it. Inside the Tutors Mastermind, we actually map this out because it helps you market and price strategically without overbooking yourself into burnout. And if you're in the mastermind and you want the link to the training that will help you with this, just let me know. So now let's talk about marketing, because a lot of small business owners, education business owners only really start marketing when they need students. It's like it's a reaction. Now, the problem with that is that there is a lag. Someone might find your content today, but then not contact you for a few weeks or even months. And that's why consistent marketing really matters more than constant marketing. So here's what I mean. You don't necessarily need to be posting content or, sending emails out every single day, but you do need to show up regularly. You don't need to be on every platform, but you do need to be visible somewhere. So here's my suggestion. Pick a marketing method that really works for you, as in where your clients are actively in a consumer mindset, not just somewhere where they hang out. So this could be email, Instagram, Facebook, referrals, SEO, whatever fits. And the key here is to stick to it consistently, even when you're fully booked. That's actually what keeps new inquiries ticking over. Even though I very rarely have tuition slots available, I keep building my waiting list so that right now my year 11s are about to leave and I can replace them fast. I'll give you a quick example of one of the masterminders. One of the tutors I work with, she posts just twice a week on Facebook, and she mixes up helpful tips and stories from her sessions, and her diary has actually been consistently full for over a year, not because she's online all the time, but because she's built visibility and trust slowly and steadily. So now we need to think about retention over constant recruitment, constantly trying to sell more and more and more. Retention's a big one, and it's why I focus on it in my group class course. It's why I focused on it in a recent webinar I did. Retention is often overlooked. But if you think about it, it's much easier to keep a client, someone you've already got that relationship with, than to find a new one. So how do you encourage students, let's say, to stay longer? It's not about locking them into long contracts or offering discounts to stay. In fact, with my membership with the Tutors Mastermind, people can cancel anytime. They pay monthly. And a really good piece of advice that I once received from a coach was don't make it hard for people to leave, make it hard for people to want to leave. And I've always used that as a guiding principle. So, retention isn't about trying to lock people in, it's about creating a really strong experience, a strong client experience. Now, just with my tuition hat on, this could mean regular progress updates to parents. You might have flexible but clear policies, ones that are in line with your boundaries. You might be very proactive with next steps like GCSE preparation, moving up a level. You want to make sessions feel valuable, not just instructional. And I know a lot of us do this. In the mastermind, we often look at how to create very simple systems to nurture clients, whether it's onboarding emails, checking in points, or even a resource hub to help parents feel supported. Those small touches have a really big impact. I had one tutor who simply started sending a termly progress email, and suddenly students who were planning to take a break, they stuck around for longer because she highlighted the problem that they still have and why they still need her. People stay when they feel seen and supported. Now, when it comes to holidays, I'll tell you something I do that has meant that I've not struggled to work during holiday periods for the last 5 years and counting. As the holidays approach, I think carefully about who I will invite, and that's the language I use, who I will invite for lessons. And I use that language because I want a break as well. So when I'm doing this, I typically look at two things. I look at the time of year and I consider who may need my support the most, who needs that extra time with me. Then I prepare for this invitation by communicating updates to those parents and making a case, so to speak, as to why I think they need a little more support over the holidays. So instead of just asking who would like lessons, I specifically invite students and I speak to them as well as their parents, because usually when a student has agreed, the parents agree as well. So think about retention and think about it deeply, because looking after our existing clients is so much easier and pleasurable than constantly trying to make sales. Now, another key to staying fully booked, remember, whatever that means to you, is making it really easy for people to do things like make inquiries, and even easier for them to say yes. Essentially, we want to remove unnecessary friction between the stage that someone wants to make an inquiry and to actually taking that action. And this is where having some systems in place saves you so much time and improves that sales process. Think about it. A clear, easy to navigate website, or even just a well structured link tree page, for example, a streamlined inquiry form so you're not playing email ping pong, a bank of responses for FAQs like how much do you charge or do you tutor siblings, and a welcome or an onboarding process that feels professional and reassuring. These things aren't hard to put in place, and it doesn't even mean that you need a fancy setup. Even something like a Google form and an autoresponder can do the job. Inside the Tutors Mastermind, I frequently talk about my systems. I have got past episodes where I talk about my systems, and if you check out my YouTube channel, I've also got some information and a demo of how I onboard and how I teach students. I teach online, but it will still give you ideas, because even if you teach face-to-face, onboarding can still be automated without losing personalization. And actually, this week, one of my clients, all they did was they set up a Calendly event, which has reduced that friction between someone wanting a call and actually booking one. So before we set up Calendly, their clients had to make an inquiry through her website. Then she would email them back with some suggestions of timings. This would go back and forth, and then they would eventually have the call if that conversation, if that dialogue continued. We've reduced multiple steps to one. People just book a call straight away with her through the website. It's saved her so much time and admin, and it's actually increased the number of people booking those calls. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Being fully booked can feel exhausting if it's not managed well. And I don't know about you, but I've often used the line, oh, it's a good problem to have. I almost feel ungrateful to complain about being busy. But the reality is, this has to be sustainable for us. We don't want to burn out. So, what do I mean by it needs to be managed well? So, I would say it's really important to protect your time and energy. Here are just a few ideas of ways that you can do that. It might spark some more ideas for you. Have clear working hours and, importantly, stick to them. Use things like cancellation and reschedule policies that support you, that work for you. Build gaps into your schedule, even if your diary could be more full, and be okay with saying yes and no. You don't have to say yes to every inquiry. It's okay to have a waiting list. You don't have to chase every hour of income. I think the older I get, I say the older, I mean, I'm 43. So I know I'm not old, but the older I get, I do really value money because I know it's an enabler to allow me to lead the life that I want. But balanced with that, I really value time. I don't want to work back to back. That's how I used to work, even when was it? 2 years ago, I was working like that, back to back. I was on Zoom 8 hours a day. So great, I was earning really well. I was busy, I was fully booked, but I was exhausted. And I don't want to be exhausted all the time. Otherwise, this will be my permanent state. So even as you're thinking about being fully booked, something I say to all my clients, regardless of which stage they are, is always prepare for success. When I set up Upgrade Your Education business, I didn't prepare for success. I assumed it would take ages to gain momentum, and it didn't. Now, I'm going to use that line. It was a great problem to have. However, it was really stressful. People wanted to work with me. They were asking how they could work with me, and I didn't have anything in place. I didn't have systems. And so I just reacted and I set up a quick Calendly where they could book mentoring calls with me. And I just ran it like that for ages before I really took the time to think about how I can make my work more impactful whilst also making sure that I am protecting my energy so that I can continue doing what I love for longer. Now, if you're in a position where you really need to be earning more money, you may think that me saying, don't be afraid to say no is bad advice, but I promise you it isn't. As I share, whenever I support tutors or if I'm helping them set up group classes, I remind them that I now earn more teaching 9 hours a week than I did when I tutored 20 hours a week. You can earn more without teaching more. And I very specifically have a very value packed session in the mastermind on this topic, which you get instant access to. But the point here is that just because I'm earning more, teaching less, doesn't necessarily mean that I'm not working more because, working with group classes, for example, can create a lot of admin. So, however you do it, whatever you're planning, being fully booked shouldn't also mean being fully drained. So, if you are stuck in that feast and famine cycle, remember that it's often not actually about doing more. It's about doing the right things intentionally. It's about knowing what fully booked actually means for you. It's about promoting yourself and keeping yourself visible consistently, but that doesn't mean constantly. And a great idea is to focus on retention, not just recruitment, and to make all your processes, all those client facing processes really smooth. So earlier I gave you an example of onboarding new people, of helping people make an inquiry. But what experience do people have when they're actually working with you? Is it difficult to contact you, for instance? Is it difficult to ask a question or to cancel a lesson and so on? So we want to look at the whole experience. Now, if you're thinking, I know I need to do these things, but I keep putting them off as I did ages ago, or you really need help getting organized, you're really not alone. In the mastermind, we have accountability groups, people form accountability partners. You've got the community as well as the training and the tools and my direct support to really help keep your business thriving without it taking over. It really is the place to be if you are a tutor who wants to grow sustainably, who wants to earn while they learn. Everything's very action focused and designed around that. So remember that feast and famine cycle doesn't have to be the case. For a long time, I just accepted that, look, I'm a tutor, summer's going to be quiet, Christmas is going to be quiet. I just accepted it until I didn't, until I thought, well, hang on, my bills don't work like that. So I need to think of a way around this. And there are various things I do. Let's remember that the pressure doesn't all have to fall on your business. I put money away for savings that covers me. In fact, I'm very transactional about money. So I use Starling Bank at the moment, and I have these different pots. They're called pots, saving pots. And I always have one that's called a buffer, and it covers me for any downtime, for maybe if I want to go on holiday. Of course, I have things like the Tutors Mastermind, where it's a recurring income model from a business perspective. So I have things in place. And one of the things that tutors I work with find extremely valuable is creating a 1 year plan and working backwards from very notable periods in the year to plan things. So it might be that you're approaching summer. And so when you work backwards from there, where you think it's going to be quiet, or actually, I just want a bit of a break, but I can't afford to stop earning money. You may use that to put some what I call sales boosts in place, some one-off things that you may run that just boost your income and helps cover you for that period. So I'm going to stop there because I've given you a few ideas, but really what's important is that you reflect on what would work for you and don't feel overwhelmed by it. This is not about you doing loads more, adding more to it. We often forget low-hanging fruit. And what I mean by that are things that we already have in place, things that are already in front of us that we're not making the best use of. Use what you already have, maybe even streamline it further. And you know where I am if you need any help with that. So thanks as always for listening. We've actually reached the end of this season. So you'll hear from me on Wednesday and then we'll have a 1 week break. But as always, thank you for supporting the podcast. And if you have a moment, please share this episode with someone who you think would find it useful. Would you like to take this discussion further? Perhaps you have some questions or you'd like more ideas on tailoring your business. If so, book a free discovery call through the link in the show notes.